everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Good Book Life. And this episode is Why We Love Conventions as Authors. And I'm joined once again by some fabulous writing guests. I'll ask them to introduce themselves now. First of all, Zoe Cunningham.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for having me on the show. So I'm Zoe Cunningham. I'm actually primarily an actor and movie producer, but I've also written 3 non-fiction books, and I have started dabbling in a novel, but it's definitely dabbling and a long way off. But I definitely love to hang around at conventions, so I'm looking forward to chatting about that.
Hi Donna, thanks for having me on. I'm David Green. I am a writer and I'm also the secretary of the British Fantasy Society. So I don't not only do I go to conventions, but I also help organise and run them occasionally.
I'm a science fiction writer, but since about 2012, I've been going to conventions, and somehow I have ended up helping out with the BristolCon convention since then.
They've suckered you in.
Oh yes, slowly but surely.
And Katerina.
Wonderful. Hi Donna, thanks so much for the invite. My name's Excell, and I'm a science fantasy authorpreneur. I've spent the last about 6 years attending conventions on both sides of the pond as a panelist, a presenter, and a workshop facilitator.
So I'm going to ask you all, what was your very first convention?
My first one, it wasn't actually that very long ago. It was FantasyCon 2021 in Birmingham. It was the first one after the obviously didn't happen in 2020 in person. And it was that was my first one. It was the first time I'd left the country since the pandemic started as well. And it was very kind of strange and harrowing going through traveling, because I live in Ireland and traveling through airports and all that kind of stuff. And it was my first convention. I didn't really know anyone. And so I was not feeling super confident, but I was made to feel very, very welcome. And I've been going back ever since.
So I've been going to the UK Games Expo for 20 years, which I know because I went to the first one and it's just hit 20 years. But that's slightly different from a con. Because I don't know, it's a slightly different balance of what there is everywhere. So my first con I would say was Nine Worlds. I don't know if anyone else went to Nine Worlds, which was a London-based convention that attempted to bring together all the different strands of fandom. Hence, 9 worlds of different fandom all in one place, and that was really awesome. And I'm sad that it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I always meant to go to one and I never did. Such a shame. Okay, Rosie, what was yours?
I think it was either BristolCon 2011 or 2012. I sort of woke up and realised I needed a day out, and I thought maybe I ought to go to a convention and find out what it was all about.
I'm not sure if I was at that one. That might be the one. There was one I went to the first time and I played Cards Against Humanity with Paul Cornell. That might have been it. I don't know.
I started actually over in the States with a convention called FanX that sort of started as a writing convention about 6 years ago. It wasn't 2020, so it must have been before that. And I sort of went and gathered with a bunch of fellow nerds. It was before I'd published anything, and I just kind of found my people, Everybody else there loved books, loved writing, loved different fandoms just as much as I did. And it was very much a catalyst for me, for everything I'm doing writing-wise now. So
yeah, it can lead to so much. My very first one was back in 2003, and I went to a small convention called BristolCon in Stafford. And this had been organised to celebrate the work of Storm Constantine. Constantine, a lot of people call her. I call her Constantine. She never corrected me. I met loads of writers there and made lots of friends, including my good friend Jamie Spratlin, who I ended up co-editing Visionary Tongue magazine with, and I ended up working for Storm, and she gave me my first introduction into editing. So my whole life is thanks to that. And without her wouldn't have met her husband, made all the friends I have. So there we go. So when you first started going to conventions, were you already writing, or you were just a fan or a reader? Rosie, how about you?
I was already writing short stories by that time. I think my first one was about 2004, and there'd been a small, steady trickle from there. And I ended up doing copy editing for Jupiter SF for a few issues, which unfortunately I had to give up due to pressure of work.
On four-letter word. Katrina, how about you?
Yeah, so I had already written a couple of novels, nothing that was publishable, but I'd been doing it for a while. When I went to the convention, and there were so many people who were talking about, this is how you develop this aspect of writing. It really introduced me to a community of fellow writers. So I feel like that was my first step into the writing world, as opposed to just being an independent novelist, just writing away in my little notebook or on my little laptop. So.
Zoe?
So I went to my first WorldCon last year in Seattle, and I went in a very exciting capacity in that my feature film Breaking Infinity was screened at the WorldCon Film Festival. So it was all round super exciting because I got to be there for the first time, see how it's all laid out and all the amazing things going on. And then also my film was screened, and it was a particularly good audience, I think, for my film. So it was also like a great matchup. I really related to what Katrina said earlier about like finding your people. So that was really cool. And I'm doing it again this year and screening my next movie, Voidance, in LA at LACon.
Very nice. LA and everything. LA and Seattle. This is kind of Elle Woods. I've been watching that lately. Elle. Also David.
Yeah. So I started publishing. I started writing after my son was born in 2017, December 2017. So I only really started writing in 2018, and it was one of those things where I'd kind of wanted to write all my life, but I kept putting it off, and usually it was kind of just self-rejection, I think, of just being like, I'm not good enough to do this. And so I decided to start doing it when my son was born, because I was at home with him. And then after I finished my first novel, which was a crime novel actually, which is very unusual for me, the pandemic started. So I was like, what do I do with all of this? And everyone was online and all that. So I had like kind of like a year and so FantasyCon was in the September in 2021. So it was like, the best part of 21 months where I was kind of like trying to figure things out on my own. And the whole world had moved online at that point. So it was a little bit easier, but it was also, I didn't meet anyone. I was living in Ireland, which is writing genre in Ireland there's only a few of us that are doing it. So there's no real society. There's no like, British Fantasy Society equivalent in Ireland or anything like that. So I had published my first novel, which was a fantasy book, in 2021 at the start, and I'd had quite a few short stories published. But it was very much that kind of like, I was like, I'd like to get more involved in the kind of UK scene outside of Ireland. I'd like to get an agent, and I had no idea how any of this worked. Didn't have any idea where to go to get advice for it. So FantasyCon was like my first port of call. And then when I was there, I was forced to buy a ticket to BristolCon in October. and a few people forced me. No one actually to do with the BristolCon committee, actually, which is strange. It was just other people. But I had such a good time at FantasyCon that I was like, yeah, sure. It didn't take much forcing, to be honest. And I think also I bought tickets for EasterCon when I was there as well.
Oh yeah, you made that you made that error. You walked past tables.
Yeah. I went to the bar. That was the big error,
That's not so much an error. That's so much. It's always good things happening. I often find this is the thing when people say like, "Oh, you're spending too many time," because the panels happen at conventions, but also so much happens in the bar. And it can be, it's not like that the panels are a drag to get to or not interesting enough. It's just that you've got to tear yourself away from the conversations that are happening in the bar as well sometimes. So,
Yes.
yeah, but as I said, like, you are actually doing yourself a disservice, I think, if you don't go to panels. I'm going to ask you guys, so what for you has changed since you started going to conventions? How has your life changed? I mean, Zoe, it sounds like it's going really well.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's always like, that the edited highlights that other people see, right? So how's and actually my life has changed for the better for sure. So I was working full time in technology for many, many years. And then actually during the pandemic, I went down to 3 days a week, started doing more of my job remotely, which was amazing and changed my life a lot. And I ramped up producing and acting, which I started in 2014. So I've kind of been on this career switch over, like ramping one down and ramping one up. And also just finding out more about who I am and where I belong. And like I say, I think cons and also the British Fantasy Society Discord, which is a very cool place to hang out. That's where I belong.
Like it's just occasionally during a conversation. That conversation could take several days to happen with me, but I'm in there. That's it. David, how about you?
Oh yeah, God, my life has changed so much in the last 5 years of going to cons, and a lot of that has to do with cons as well. It's not just other things. I was diagnosed as autistic in 2023, which was, because part of that was because I used to feel so comfortable at conventions with so many, and it turns out that the people that I felt so comfortable with were also neurodivergent, and so that was fun, and it was great, and I had my kind of like coming out kind of thing with at a convention in terms of like talking about it for the first time, and it was lovely. I met my agent at a convention. I've got landed traditional publishing deals since I started going to conventions. I've got involved with the British Fantasy Society and not only started helping out as volunteers at conventions, but also kind of doing the whole back end of it, which I've done a couple of times now with FantasyCon, which is, really, really fun. And it's amazing to see how much these things mean to people, and seeing, it's been part of people's lives for decades. And I think when you kind of come on board to kind of volunteer or to organize these things, you have to really kind of bear that in mind. You do want to bring it to new people. And I think a lot of conventions have been doing a really good job of that over the last few years of kind of diversifying who's coming to it and appealing to people of different experiences and backgrounds. But you also have to bear in mind that there's people that have been coming to these since they started, and you have to make a space for them as well and respect that, because they're the ones that started these things in the first place and kept them going through some very, very difficult times.
Yeah, I mean, I think was it 1958 might have been the first one for Easter, because I've a feeling it starts very much the same time as the BSFA, and that's been around since 1958. So yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
and FantasyCon I think was 71, and there are definitely people that are there every year that have been there since then. So like, yeah.
oh my goodness, I started going to conventions at the same time when people were still talking about the split between the BSFA and the BFS. None of that exists. It's not a thing now. But honestly, it was splitters. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's not a thing anymore, but it used to be. Oh my goodness. How have you, well, you have joined both? Yeah, well, they're both done.
Yes.
Um, how's things changed for you, Katerina?
Here's the thing I've noticed about conventions is when you're there, there's so much belonging that you feel like anything is possible. And so My first time at a convention is when I realized that no, I can publish a book. I can do this. I'm not just gonna sit there writing by myself. I'm gonna actually do this. And I feel like every single convention I go to, I get a similar burst of energy. I take that next step. I work on that next chapter, even if it's one that I've been putting off for months. Um, and so I feel like everything that I am professionally, as a writer, as an editor, as a presenter, everything can be traced back to conventions. So really, I can blame this entire chapter of my life on conventions. So yeah, my life has changed a lot for the better.
That's really good. Rosie.
I will put it this way. I've always been eccentric in my own quiet way. And actually going to the conventions, I found, yeah, there are fellow eccentrics in their own different ways. I can get on with people here. Yay! And from my point of view, I also learned a lot about the publishing industry, a bit here, a bit there, that kind of thing. And I gradually got a picture out of it, and sort of, as me being me, I'm quietly forging my own bizarre little way through the publishing world as a consequence.
Conventions, going to a convention, it does cost money. Would you say that should be something that people should like save up for? How expensive is it to go to a convention? I'm going to ask around. Zoe.
Well, I feel like maybe the people who organise conventions can give more up-to-date or accurate answers than me. It's not something that I've personally. I feel like life is expensive nowadays, and actually, for me, the value I get from a convention, it's not one of those things where I think, should I do this? And obviously, I've been working in tech, so I've had a job. So like I think if I was a full-time author, I might struggle a bit more with being able to afford conventions. But I've also noticed, like, back to this kind of sense of community, I've always noticed that there always seems to be a hardship fund. So I think that for people who can't afford it, it's definitely worth getting in touch with the organisers and kind of being upfront about that, and seeing if they can help or how they can help, rather than just thinking, oh, I can't go because it's not available to me financially. But maybe the organisers should comment on that rather than me.
Yes, and there's always like TAF as well. So yeah, that basically sends a fan somewhere overseas. It's your turn. You can be TAF this time. People vote on it as well. So who is a worthy recipient of the TAF fund? Yes. David, how are you finding it?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because I think that the smaller conventions, unfortunately, seem to be ending a little bit now, and we get into this size where you've got either kind of like decent sized smaller ones, so like you talk about 300 or so people that can sustain in a sort of single location, that don't need lots of space, and they have a good local community around them, or you're going into these ones that are 1,000 people plus, which in the UK is a very, very difficult proposition because there's only a certain amount of hotels that can facilitate that. And unfortunately, those hotels are not close to each other. So you're looking at like Glasgow or Birmingham and London, which is difficult for people to get to from the other side of the country because London is quite expensive. And I think a lot of conventions are mindful of trying not to raise prices too much, because I think we don't want to do that. We don't want to price people out, but unfortunately the expenses, travel and hotel costs, which have risen extremely in the last couple of years especially, and that is something that we have no kind of control over. But what we do try to do is, like, we do have like hardship funds. We do a great way of getting to go to a convention is to volunteer to it, because you're not working the entire time that you're there. You are put onto a timetable and you do get time speaking from FantasyCon experience, you get time to go and enjoy it as well, but you do have your hotel paid for and stuff like that, which is can be very, very helpful. Another thing as well that you can kind of look into with that is a lot of people that I've noticed these days make a whole kind of weekend of it, and instead of just getting like a hotel room, they'll go somewhere off site and kind of like do an Airbnb with a group of people where it brings the cost down a little bit. And there is that community there, and I think when you are involved in those kind of communities and you just like post on like kind of a Discord or something like that saying, look, I'm finding it difficult to afford a hotel for this, I'd really like to come, would anyone like to share? You'll get people that are like, yes, please, because they're worried about saying it themselves, and that's something that they wanted to do. And I know lots of people did that for World Fantasy Convention last year in Brighton. There was like lots of people staying off site to kind of bring costs down. So yeah, it is tricky, unfortunately. I think con runners are doing the best that they can to mitigate as much as possible, but yeah, it's a good thing. I think the community really, really helps and comes through with this kind of thing.
Yeah, I set off site in a little apartment, so that was a way of me sort of saving a bit of money on Brighton last year. But in the past, when I've gone to conventions in Brighton, I've actually camped. So I've gone to, because there's a campsite not too far away in Brighton. You can walk to the locations where the conventions happen. So that's another way of doing it. It was October. It was quite mild. Okay, Rosie.
Okay, from us talking as an insider on the BristolCon side of things, when it comes to pricing, we're very careful to keep the prices down as low as safely possible to keep the convention running from year to year. So, we are actually looking at, when it comes to the convention fees, keeping that down to a minimum. We have to pay for the hotel. The hotel's the biggest cost in this case, but the far bigger is the actual accommodation, and if you're going from a distance, it's traveling at the distance, and that's where the big components are if you're going to a convention. If you can minimize either of those, you're onto a winner.
Something else I've seen on the BFS Discord is a lot of people carpooling. So I feel that, again, the more you're involved in an active community and you kind of say, oh, can someone help me out with this? Can someone help? People come together and share and help, and that's awesome.
Katerina, but you.
Yeah. So everything that's been shared about community is really words right out of my mouth. But I think there's also something to be said for kind of how people can get into that community. And I think the BFS is a really, really good entry point into that. But if we're talking people who haven't really done a lot of conventions before, just kind of thinking about how they can get into that community, because again, like everybody's been saying, the major cost isn't the attendance at the convention itself, it's all of the costs around the travel. And so just finding ways, finding Discord groups, finding writers groups, finding book groups even, other people in your fandoms that you can really share some of that cost with, because everybody's in the same boat at this point.
That actually reminds me of something else as well. That I'm not here to shill for the BFS, I promise. But something else they do is online events, which I do think is another good way to like start meeting people and participate in things. If you have access needs or cost challenges, I think that's another good way of participating.
Yeah, I think so too.
You're all doing my job for me. It's amazing.
Yeah, we did one a couple of weeks ago on power in fantasy and science fiction. That was a really good one. Lots of great guests. So yeah, that was a good one. I also should say that you could speak to your accountant, but some of the expenses that you might incur in attending conventions are tax deductible. So if this is your income writing, then you can always take the hotels off it. Not the booze, not the booze. Don't try claiming for booze. It is wrong. It is frowned upon. Okay, so I'm going to ask, what tips do you have for newbies attending convention? Or top tips? Katerina.
Wonderful. If you're going in cosplay, wear sensible shoes. I don't care what your cosplay is, wear sensible shoes. You will be walking and walking and walking and walking and walking. And there's nothing worse at a convention than feet hurting 5 minutes in, and then it's taking away from your engagement. So cosplay, dress up, be part of your community, show off who you are, because it's really a safe space. But wear sensible shoes while you do it.
I think of the characters that have very unsensible shoes to avoid being. I'm not sure. Okay, Rosie.
Basically, don't be shy. You know, if you know nobody, sort of join a little circle and start a conversation, or talk to the neighbour in the audience, or have a chat with somebody in the bar and see how things pan out. You'd be surprised.
And definitely go to those panels that say for newbies to meet new people at convention, because there'll be one of those. So if you get there with plenty of time, have a look at when that slot is on the program, and go to that, because then you will definitely meet some people. So you won't be on your own for the rest of the convention. You will definitely have people you can recognize, people you've met. Yes. David.
I was going to say that one, so I'm trying to think of something else there now. I mean, even before you go, if you are in like a Discord, or if you're in a Facebook group or something like that, and just say, look, hi, this is a picture of me, this is my first one, would anyone like to say hello to me? That is also very helpful, because you'll get a lot of people that will be like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, come and meet me, and I'll introduce people and whatnot. The first bit of advice I was given at a convention is and I can never remember it, but I know the gist of it, is the 3-2-1 rule. Is that what it is, or is it at least 3 hours of sleep?
Is the minimal.
Yeah, what is it? It's like one shower, 2 minutes. Yeah, something like that. So you might know it better than me, but it's a good one, because it's like one shower.
5 hours of sleep, not 3.
Three.
What kind of superhero are you?
I go to BristolCon a lot, so it's usually 3 hours of
3
sleep.
showers, 2 minutes of sleep.
Yeah, so it's 5 hours of sleep, at least 5 hours of sleep, 3 meals, 1 shower.
Yeah.
But also as well, and another thing as well, especially for neurodivergent people, it is great to kind of be around your own people and feel so accepted and have a good time. But also, and I know there's that kind of fear of missing out, that you might miss out on a conversation or you might miss out on a panel, but do take breaks and don't burn yourself out, because they're usually long weekends, and if you can go and find a quiet room or go back to your hotel room or something just for an hour just to recharge or something, that's always pretty beneficial if you can do it.
Yeah, and I was to say, like, I think when it comes to things like beginners of panels, if there's a speaking event, and you're worried about sort of like, oh, I'm late, just go in the back. Just go in the back. No one will mind. Sometimes there'll be people will be on the stage going, "It's 20 people in here," and then somebody sneaks in the back and they're going, "Yay, more questions at the end." If it's a book launch, definitely go in. These things are very dynamic. Unless you can't get in because it's very popular, in which case somebody might swap with you for a few minutes so that you can actually get in and buy a book. But don't feel afraid about being late for things. Try not to be, but don't worry about it, because you'll be welcome in things.
Book
as long as you're being
launches,
minimal in your noise.
book launches are also really good. But if you are on a bit of a budget, like, and you've got a book budget and you're interested in buying books, that's great. But there's usually food and drink put on at book launches as well, so that's also kind of yeah.
And usually no obligation to buy, but extreme social pressure. just that, but no actual obligation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I tend to travel to conventions by train, I have a rule. If I sell a book, I can buy a book. If I don't sell a book, I can't buy a book.
This is good. This is good. I take my husband with me, and he rushes around and buys all the books anyway. So, Zoe, what advice do you have?
Yeah, so I think this depends on what kind of person you are. Like you say, it's fine to turn up to things late. It's fine to go and just meet people and hang out and see what happens. There will be plenty to do if you do that. You won't be short of things to do. But it's usually possible to do a bit of planning in advance. And certainly for a lot of conventions, there are a lot of conflicting panels. So there are there's a lot of choice for what you do. And so if you do take a look at the schedule in advance, have a little plan out, maybe plan in some breaks, like David's saying, I think that can be beneficial and can help you get the most appropriate experiences for you out of the convention. And something else just to add to meeting people, which I do think is the number one tip, is talk to people. They're friendly, they're lovely, they're just as scared of you as you are scared of them. If you talk to someone on their own, you're probably helping them out because they're probably sitting there going, oh my God, how do I talk to anyone? Or just go and join in with a group. And you'll find that groups always look. I always find at all events, you see a group and you're like, oh, they all know each other. They all came together. They definitely don't want to talk to someone random. And whenever you go and join the group, it never turns out to be the case. So this is the number one most important thing to do. And I think you can do a little bit of prep for this as well. If you're very nervous about it, you can just have a little prep of how you're going to introduce yourself. So if you're an author, like I'm an author, what's your book? If you're not an author, you can say I love books, I love sci-fi, I love these particular things, and that just gives you something to talk about. And you can even prep little questions to ask people. I know this sounds I know lots of people don't need this, so please ignore it if you don't need it. But for me, I find it really helpful to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and ask them what's the best panel to see, because they'll have an answer and then we can have a conversation about it, and I won't have to sit there going, hi, I'm Zoe. Hi, so yeah. So I think there is, if you want to, you can do a little bit of planning ahead.
With that planning ahead, is it all right if I break in here for a second?
Go ahead.
With that planning ahead, quite often, I'd have to say 90% of the conventions I've been to, they always have some sort of a sensory room where you can take a break, where you can step away from the crowds and have a sensory reset. So knowing where that room is in advance, if you're on the cusp of sensory overload, you don't have time to stop and look at the map, find it. Just know where it is in advance.
Yeah, this is why I also like doing conventions in town centres as opposed to airports, because I love stepping out for a breather. So like sometimes it just needs a little walk around. I love it when we're in Chester. It's a great place to go for a walk. Yeah, go have a look around the town wall or the Roman ruins. So yeah, go back to Chester, David.
No, we're too big for Chester, unfortunately.
I missed the last one. I had COVID.
Yeah. I know. I remember getting the email actually. Yeah, I felt so sorry for you. Yeah.
That's the end of our half-hour discussion about why we love conventions. I think it's safe to say that we do. So I'm just going to ask you if you've got something to promote that you would like to wave, or just tell people about. I'm going to start, Zoe.
Thank you. I would love to tell everyone about my new movie, which is called Voidance. It is out now on Amazon, Apple, and YouTube or Google Play. It follows an agent called Alana Toro, who's joining this elite organization called the Attic Guard, and she has to do a final assessment, which takes the form of solving a terrorist threat, but in a simulation. So she gets several chances to attempt it, and it's been described as Miss Marple with the Space Blaster by The Guardian. So that gives you an idea of what it's like.
Nice, awesome, David.
So probably my next thing out is in November. You've got one of my books. the Magic Matt's Mystery. Yeah, the sequel just came out recently. Charms, Charts, and Conspiracies. But yeah, I have my first trad book out in November, which is called A Healer's Guide to Adventuring. It's up for pre-order at the minute. It's a fantasy world's first therapist for adventurers. Goes on a mission with a ragtag crew to do on-the-job therapy for people that desperately need it.
Oh, hi. I had a book come out in May. It's called A Truth Beyond Sense, and it's about this compagnier, which is basically a computer engineer. He runs the stuff on Ice and Rock Moon on Miranda, and his past has catched up with him because he used to live on Mars. He was accused of a crime, of genocide, and he escaped. That's one secret he has. The other secret is that he has a ghost in his body of nanites, which allows him to be a supercomputer whiz. And he has to get out of all sorts of problems in order to sort it out in a crazy society run by the priesthood, which is a priesthood based on science, not on religion.
Who's that out with, please?
Elsewhere Press. Elsewhere Press.
Oh, we like Elsewhere.
And it can be bought at all good bookshops. It is the second in the Truth Beyond series, but it can be read as a standalone.
And Kate A?
Wonderful. So anybody who's looking for bite-sized reads and likes humorous, cozy fantasy can check out my new series of short stories and novelettes. The Sanctuary Witch stories are about a sanctuary witch named Annette, who is sequentially bombarded with gods and sprites who all have problems that they have managed to drag to her doorstep.
Okay, so before I say goodbye, I'm just to say to everybody, if you could subscribe, like, give us a little thumbs up, but please do subscribe. We are new, we have only a few subscribers so far, but every little helps. It's free to you, and so these are weekly. We're not going to bother you, are we? Just trust the algorithm. We're just like us. Subscribe. I am working on the anthology Screams and Wails, which I'm hoping to launch at FantasyCon. And that is Wales, Wails, which is an anthology of metal horror. And our last one out is a collection of novellas called Obsidian, which are dark stories set in space, available from the Slab.press. Thank you so much to my wonderful guests, Zoe Cunningham, David Green, Rosie Oliver, and Kate A. Excell. Bye, everybody.